In certain situations, we all know that Pyrene can be questionable at times, and unfortunately, Basen becomes her next target. What starts as a simple delivery turns into a desperate run for survival as he barely manages to escape her with his dignity intact. The chapter starts with Basen arriving at the apothecary shop carrying the remaining volumes of the encyclopedia. Originally, Jinshi was supposed to bring them himself, but he's currently too busy, so he sends him as his messenger instead. Maomao notes that even here, he still refers to Jinshi by his eunuch name. It makes sense though, it isn't proper to speak a noble's true name in front of commoners. She also notices that he left the door wide open. He likely did this to ensure no one misunderstood their relationship, especially given his position under Jinshi. However, this consideration has a downside. A crowd of curious onlookers has gathered, which she finds incredibly annoying. He presents the books and she goes through them all, realizing that back at the fortress, she had only really paid attention to the volume about plants. She hadn't realized there were so many others, including books on birds and fish. Finally, she finds what she's looking for, the illustrated guide to insects. She's convinced this book contains the locust research the old man mentioned, but as she flips through the pages, the information is nowhere to be found. Even Bazen joins in to help, but they find nothing. She wonders if Sazen tricked them, though she doubts it. He wouldn't really gain anything from lying about something like that. While they wonder if the book was tampered with in storage, her older sister Pyrene spots them. As he argues that nobody would care about a book on bugs, she suddenly reaches out and brushes her fingers against his cheek. He's so startled that he practically jumps while still sitting in his seat. She makes an excuse that she was just brushing some dust off his shoulder, but he's already turning bright red. That doesn't stop her though. She tries again. Maomao thinks that her sister is a very lovely woman, but as a high-ranking courtesan, she doesn't have clients every day, and that leaves her feeling unsatisfied. In the light novel, we get a clearer look at her reaction as she calmly prepares for the chaos. She slides her mortar and pestle onto a shelf so they won't get stepped on, puts on her shoes, and starts munching on a shrimp cracker while leaning against the wall to watch the show, thinking that it would be very interesting if Lihaku were to show up. Basen has finally had enough of the Verdigris house welcome. He flees the shop, shouting that he's already handed over everything he needed to. Another detail from the novel is that as he runs away, he's actually struggling to tighten his belt because Pyrene had almost managed to get it off him. She even watches him leave, wondering if she should point out that his underpants are showing. To be honest, I get why they didn't include this in the manga, and I'm pretty sure the author added it to be funny. Either way, I'm looking forward to seeing how they animate these scenes. In the end, both Pyrene and Granny feel a little disappointed that their target ran away. Moving on, let's talk about the books. She asks Yukio where Sazen is, and he explains that he's busy cleaning the entrance. He hasn't become a proper servant yet, so for now, he's stuck doing apprentice work. He also says that if Sazen works hard and shows a willingness to learn, he'll support him, but if he can't handle it, he'll be dismissed. As they watch him, he actually seems to be enjoying himself, so she suggests observing him a little longer. Then she calls him over and shows him the books Basen brought and explains that she checked them all, but there is absolutely nothing written about locusts. He counts the volumes and quickly realizes that something is wrong. One volume is missing. The insect guide only has 2 volumes here, but there should be 3 in total. This means someone must have taken the 3rd volume before she even arrived at the fortress. He wonders who it could be, because he knows for a fact that the book was there during the old man's time. The old man he's referring to was the doctor expelled from the inner palace on suspicion of adultery with TOHO. Apparently, he had been researching an elixir of immortality for Shenmei. He wonders aloud if the missing book was buried with the doctor's body, as that's a tradition in his hometown. She then asks how the doctor died. He explains that it was the result of a failed experiment. To create a medicine for immortality, the doctor had to test it on himself, though he admits he doesn't know the details. She remembers the mice she saw in the fortress and realizes that to make a resurrection medicine work, you can't just stop at animal testing. In the end, the only way to increase the success rate would be to test it on humans over and over again. She realizes that the doctor must have used the medicine on himself. Suddenly, a horrible, wide grin spreads across her face. She grabs his shoulder and demands to know where they buried the body. Terrified, he pulls away, saying he doesn't know because someone else handled it. When she asks who, he reveals that it was Swisui. Everything finally clicks in her head. She's so excited that she straight up whacks him on the shoulder and pushes him out to get him back to cleaning. She can't believe she didn't realize it sooner. Still grinning, she immediately goes to send a letter regarding Swisui, who is now living with Lady Adwo. Later that morning, a carriage arrives to take her to the Southern Imperial Villa. Choyu wants to join her, but she refuses, telling him she's going there for work. The real reason, however, is that Swisui and the other Shi clan children are living at the villa. Bringing him there would defeat the entire purpose of keeping him at the brothel. She leaves him with Yukiko and notices how well he's getting along with the two sisters. She wonders about his future since his left side is paralyzed and he won't be able to handle heavy labor. She considers training him as an apothecary, but he doesn't seem the least bit interested in medicine, unlike Maomao, who found it fascinating at his age. Upon arriving at the villa, Maomao is struck by the beauty of the gardens. She is asked to change into more formal clothing before an attendant leads her to the mistress of the house. There, she finds Lady Adwo, who greets her warmly. Standing right by her side is Swisui, and both are dressed in masculine attire. Now, as Adwo sits down, she tells them not to mind her presence and to speak freely. She presents the encyclopedia volumes and asks Swisui if she recognizes them. Swisui confirms that they belong to her mentor, but immediately notices that one volume is missing. When asked about it, she honestly says she doesn't know. Maomao believes her since there is no reason for her to lie anymore. As the granddaughter of the former emperor and a member of the fallen Shi clan, she can never appear in public again, so she is basically living a life of purposeless confinement. Maomao doesn't know what His Majesty's plans are for her from here on, but she thinks that letting an apothecary with that kind of talent go to waste would be a real loss. As for her mentor, Maomao simply asks where he is now, hearing that Swisui flinches, which is all the proof she needs. The doctor is alive, and he had used the resurrection drug on himself to escape the fortress. However, Swisui informs her that she won't get any information from him. She reminds her of Choyu, the boy who lost his memories and suffered paralysis, and asks her if she can put the pieces together. Wanting to confirm, Maomao asked if she was suggesting that her mentor had lost his memory, and it turns out he hadn't just lost his memory. She might have even met him without realizing, since he was one of the bedridden old men at the hot spring village. Swisui explains that he no longer remembers who he is or the research he did, noting sadly that if the mentor had been in good health, Shisui would have never needed to drag Maomao into the Shi clan's mess in the first place. Feeling disappointed, Maomao tries one last lead, the locust research. But Swisui says that she wasn't part of that research because she hates insects due to her past trauma, adding that it was her specialty. Maomao thinks about it, but suddenly Adwo breaks the silence, commenting that the girl was quite a clever one. Swisui politely responds that it doesn't matter how smart she was, she's gone now. She seemed to have resigned herself to her sister's disappearance, but Maomao clenched a fist. Adwo continues, saying that someone as clever as Shisui wouldn't have disappeared without leaving something behind. Then there was a bang. Maomao got startled and put a hand on the table as Swisui stood up abruptly. She seemed to have realized something, but she quickly apologizes to Adwo, who tells her to simply relax. Maomao's mind begins to reel too. The words about Shisui being clever spark a flickering memory. She tries to trace it back. Was there something that had happened in the fortress? Or perhaps before that, maybe in the rear palace? Or at the medical office? No, it must have been. Maomao smacks the table and shouts, "The clinic. It's in the clinic." She remembers clearly now. Just before her kidnapping, she had been at the medical clinic, and there on the bookshelf, she had seen it. A specific volume of the encyclopedia, the one about insects. Shisui was nothing if not thorough. Maomao pictures the young woman she will never see again and can't help but smile. She had shown her exactly what she needed to find, long before she even knew she was looking for it, and the idea that she'd found the one possible moment to show Maomao what she'd shown her overpowered the pain and made her smile wider. With Shisui's grinning, mischievous face in her mind, Maomao gave the table a hearty smack. Now, this isn't the end of the manga chapter, but I wanted the next video to have more Jinmao scenes, so I ended it here. I hope you're enjoying the mystery so far. Alright, so that's it for this video. Thank you for listening to me. Take care of yourself and goodbye.
I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change.